Hello y'all on YouTube, this is Rob with Rob's Nerdy Knives. Today I have a very interesting review, impressions for you of a knife that I've had for a while that I've really enjoyed. This is the Dark Bolt Arcus. And there's two variants of this. I forget what the other one's called. It starts with a P. But anyways, if I remember, right up here. But check out Dark Bolt. I'll have a link down below. But what's cool about Dark Bolt is, just so we talk about first, they designed this, the company who started, put it together, and we as the OEM, they manufactured this for them. What's interesting about this and the design is that you notice there's a button right here. You see that? That's a button to what you see as a traditional liner lock, and it's great engagement, by the way, the liner lock. So it is liner lock that works traditionally. It has a flipper, has a front flipper, has thumb studs. So you have all that traditional stuff. So if I want to flip it open and use the liner lock to drop it, it closes really nicely, right? But here's the other cool thing, and here's the flipper. I use that. I can disengage. You see, I press this button, it disengages the liner lock. So it becomes a button liner lock, which is really cool. That's the design of this. So you have the front flipper, you can easily front flip, right? You have the thumb studs, you reverse and front flip. And then you have the flipper here that you can also flip as well. Now, I did tune my detent a little bit. It was a little tighter detent, which worked better for the flipper, but it was not as easy for the front flipper and for the thumb studs. And I like the front flipper a lot. And so I wanted it to be a little lighter. And typically when you have a front flipper, you don't want it as strong. You want it to be just a little bit lighter, a little bit looser for it, okay? So I tuned for that primarily. Now that's up to you if you'd rather have a strong flipper here. Now there's no jimping on the flipper tab. I really do wish there was some jimping on here. That's the one miss I think would have really helped, because you can see sometimes I slip off and I don't get the full pressure on there. And if I push down and do it, it works fine. But every once in a while, if I pull up like this, I miss it. Let me see if I can show you what I'm talking about. I almost did it there. Let's do it like this. Yeah, I'm still doing it. Okay, I just did it before. Yeah, like that. See, I'm pulling up instead of going like that. So there's a chance that you don't get the full deployment, and I wish for future versions to put some jimping on there. If I knew how to do it, I'd do it on my own, right? The front flipper here is nice. I wish it was a little more rounded and came up a little bit more so you can easily work that, because it's so flat here, you've got to be up here in this first top part to get to it. And so if you're low down here, sometimes it's easy to miss, or if you come up too high, you just drag across and it's hard to get that going. So, that's a small pick, but I like it. I like it a lot. The thumb stud, I do wish I could put Volcano. I could probably take these off, put the Volcano on there. They are unique. And I get why they did the thumb stud. So here's the reason. I know that they're looking for an aesthetic, and it ties. You see the button for the liner lock to the thumb stud, it matches. So it's a uniform aesthetic, and I get that. And that's a nice touch. It really is. For design purposes, I get that, and I like that. And I also like the cutout that they did here on the G10 handle. Some people don't like that. They want it smooth all the way. I like it for traction. For me, it allows me to have some good traction, especially when I'm trying to engage the flipper. So again, that was, to me, it just made logical engineering sense why they did that. It's there to meet a purpose, right? And I get it, and I like it, and I appreciate it. Some people, for aesthetic-wise, for looks, that's more important, and they may not like that. But I do know the goal ultimately is to have different scales that you can replace. You could get titanium scales or something like that. I know with the other version of this knife, you're supposed to take this blade out and put it in that and have a completely different handle. You're supposed to be able to swap out the titanium deep mill pocket carry clip, which, by the way, works really nicely. It's got a nice curve there, it goes over well, and it has enough flex for you. So, talking about the deployment, the methods, and then the closing, we have the liner lock to close, and we have the button liner lock to close. And, like a button lock, I can also open it just like that, right? So I can do that as well, which is kind of cool. I think that's really neat. Let's go ahead and do some quick measurements on this and see how much this weighs. All right. Oh, that's in grams. All right, here we are, ounces. All right, so let's do a weight. So 3.75 ounces, 3.74 ounces, so that's not bad. I mean, you've got a lot going on here. If we look inside, yeah, you see steel liners. There is some cutout relief. You can see that. Let's see if we can get it in the light. There's definitely some cutout there with the relief as well. So steel liners with the G10 on the outside, and that G10 not being all titanium definitely helps a little bit. Let's go ahead and measure the lengths of this. So we'll go ahead and put it right there. By the way, this is a hollow grind, and you can see I use my knives. It's a little dirty, but that's okay. It's a hollow grind. All right, so let's do a length there real quick. We've got a 3-inch blade, looks like right just a hair over 3 inches for full cutting length. If we go about 3 1/4 to the base of the handle, so if the edge has to be less than 3 inches, you're right. I think you're going to be over. You got to be careful with this in your states, right? But it is a little shorter. The handle, the whole area for handle, you've got a full 4 1/4 inches. So 3 inches there, 4 1/4 here. If you're talking about the blade to handle ratio, it's definitely not great, right? Because you can see you could probably take a whole 1/2 inch right here. And that is my only thing that I wish. I know they have this weird little lanyard thing that this rotates around. You can put a lanyard through there. So, lanyard people rejoice, right? But if they cut that out, that could definitely make it a little bit shorter. And I think I would prefer that. Maybe if I get the other knife and I look at that design and swapping it out, that might get you there. I don't know. All right, so that is the lengthwise. You really can't choke up. There's not really a trigger place to choke up safely. You're going to be right on that sharpening choil, so I don't recommend it. You can choke up pretty much here like this, get as close as you can. Thumb studs are relatively out of the way. You can still choke up here. You can still definitely do a full pinch grip. This is close to what I would almost consider a sheep's foot design, but it's probably more a Wharncliffe because it's not perfectly rounded, but it does have a belly, so we can call this a reverse Tonto modified, Wharncliffe sheep's foot blade, whatever. So blade police, go ahead, jump in there at the bottom, tell me what it's supposed to be and where I'm wrong. But if if you're cool with it, then just, we'll just call it a modified blade, right shape. I like it. It's hollow down here. This is, by the way, CPM S20CV steel, which is really great steel. It's nicely polished. I really like the polish that they did on this, which is really kind of cool. Everything is one direction, so it's not cross polished, so that's okay. Beautiful swedge, by the way. So if you're cutting and you're trying to get through something thick, this wedge up here is really, really nice. This is going to really allow you to navigate that cut. So when it comes up, you're having to push it here, you can turn that cut through like a thick piece of leather or a thick piece of plastic. So that's nice, right? All right, so let's talk about the whole stock, the thickness of the blade, okay? Let's get that zeroed. There we are. All right, so now we're 0. We're gonna have to go down a little bit to get past the swedge there. So we're right at 128 hundredths of an inch, 129. Yeah, about 128 hundredths of an inch. So it's just over 1/10 of an inch, much closer 1/10 of an inch than it's 2/10. So it's about average thickness. It's not terribly thick, but it's not terribly thin, right? And I love how that thickness goes all the way to the very tip, so it's gonna give it some good strength for work. Definitely has a little pokey tip so you can get into your boxes, your dog food, cat food, fertilizer, mulch, whatever you're working on, cases of water. Definitely has that nice little pokey, and I can tell you that the blade strops up really nicely and sharp and works beautifully. So I like that a lot. All right, so that's the measurements. Let's talk about the knife category. This one is going to be about 210, 219, I think it is. So it's definitely in the regular realm, which I consider between $100, $150. Budgets are under $100. And then you have high-end, anything about $275, $300 or above, right? So this is definitely a regular knife. I think it's a great deal for what you get. It is unique. The aesthetics have to speak to you, and you have to like that. Now, if you hate thumb studs that aren't volcano shaped, you're not going to like this. If you hate flippers that don't have jimping, you're not going to like this. If you hate a non-rounded front flipper that's sometimes you got to be real precision on getting onto, you're not going to like this. But if you like button locks, you're going to like this. You're really going to like this, right? And if you're okay with all of those other ones not being perfect, you're going to like this. Now, I think this is, ooh, sorry guys, I just hit the camera. Sorry about that. And you pulled everything into view there, so let's redo that, reset it. Are we even? Yeah, we are. All right, so hopefully I just clip back and cut back to this. If you, I think this knife has so much potential and it's a great first design. And I think if future designs, if they watch any of my videos, if they care, it's up to them obviously, but I think what would really send this knife way over the top is, having a different option for the thumb studs, being a little more rounded. It makes it more comfortable, I think, especially with the original detent was a lot tighter. And so thumb studs that are like this tend to be a little more uncomfortable after a while if you're a fidgety kind of person with a knife. You want something that's a little more rounded and volcano on top. Also, jimping, maybe applied jimping to the flipper, because that always helps, especially if you people slide off, because this is real easy to slide off. The detent was a lot stronger on here. And this does have a detent because it's a Linerlock, so there's a detent ball, and that's what's causing the tension. And if you could round off that's just my suggestion. Maybe the lanyard, not making it such a priority, cut that off a little bit. That would be cool. I like the mill titanium clip. I think it's a great touch, and definitely offer more variants of the scale, different colors. I think that would be fun too. So that's my feeling on that. Purpose. This is a great ADC, everyday knife. I've used this for everything, to open envelopes, letters, boxes, packages, gifts, whatever. I love this. It's a great knife to carry. It carries relatively deep. I mean, it's not super, fully concealed, but it's relatively deep, so that's really, really nice. I do like that. So for me, for a purpose, and with the hollow grind, it's a slicer all day, and with that swedge, you can navigate through thick slice stuff, and it's CPM 20 CV. Now, granted, with this type of polish on the blade, you are going to probably scratch it up, so just accept that. If you're going to make it a user knife, you're going to get scratches, you're going to get dings, you're going to get wear marks. It's going to happen. So if you want the knife to be absolutely pristine and perfect, either buy 2 knives or get yourself, just don't do anything with this one, right? So that's the important thing. You want to make sure you do that. So let's talk about the ergos and feel as far as this. Handle design. I like the handle design. It is contoured. You can see that it's shaped. It is not perfectly rounded. It's a little, it could be, these edges could definitely be sharper and harsher, and they're not. And so that makes it okay. I think the contoured shape of the handle makes it really nice and feels comfortable. The pocket clip here is nicely rounded. It's not digging in. There's no hot spots. I like that. The Linerlock, it's definitely got a good cutout, great relief, easy to get to the Linerlock to drop the edge, the blade, really, really nice. I like that. Thumb studs work, and they work well. With the lighter detent, I like the thumb studs more. I like the front flipper more. I just don't like the flipper as much, because I wish I had more traction there, and that's my only thing. That traction would be nice. And you can see the detent as it goes in. Let's watch that. Yeah, let's do it again. Sorry. And it clicks right in. There you go. Very nice. I like that. And deployment is really nice. I love the liner button lock feature. And the way it works, I actually have a video where I put in some washers, I think, on this one. And I cleaned it. You could definitely see that. But you can see it is attached to the Linerlock. It screws in and screws out. So it's pretty easy to work with, relatively, I have to tell you. I have to put some Loctite in there to make sure this doesn't screw out when you tighten it on there. But really, really nice. I like that. Closing is great, especially with skiff washers. It's beautiful. You can see how it drops. Even when I do with the Linerlock and let it drop, it's nice and buttery closing. So that's really cool. Fidget factor. All right, so you want to talk about a 10 out of 10 fidget factor. You've got thumb studs, you got front flipper, you got a flipper, and you got a button. This is a 10 out of 10 for fidget factor. This is as crazy as it gets as far as my book. So for 10 out of 10, the fidget factor is a 10 out of 10. It's the greatest number of fidget abilities you can have on a knife, and I love that. I love, love, love that. And that's what makes this Dark Bolt Arcus design just fantastic. However, I've already talked about some of the things that I wish were just a little bit better. Now, if you're okay with all of that, I will give this I want to say 9 out of 10, 90% as far as fidgety, fun goodness for me. I'm not going to give it 100% because I wish this was a little bit better, and I wish this was just slightly a little bit different. Actually, this I don't mind. It's these two that I do mind. Now, with this detent, this front flipper works really fine. If you're going to have the stronger detent, and you're going to enjoy these two, I would wish this was a little better shape for that stronger detent, right? And then I would want the thumb studs more rounded. But with the lighter detent, these thumb studs work. This front flipper works really nicely. The flipper is a little harder. You've got to get a good grip, solid on there, and it works. It does work. But it's sometimes easy to miss, because if your finger's on there and you slip off, you don't really have traction to hold on to it, right? So I'm going to give it a 90%, so 9 out of 10 for the best out of the 10 out of 10 fidgety goodness that it could have. So that's where I stand on it. I still really enjoy it. So my overall thoughts, I like this knife. I like it a lot. It's one that I'm enjoying in my collection. I'll probably continue to have in my collection until I find something else. Is it always going to keep it forever kind of knife? I don't think so, but I really do enjoy it right now. Would I probably put it up for sale to get some other knives? Yeah, probably. It's not one of those that, like my traditional pocket knives, QSP Penguin Plus with the Jig Titanium and M390. This is one that's going to stay in my collection. I've actually been offered, when I had some of these, people want to buy them, and I'm not going to sell them because I like them. They're in my collection, right? Just like if the 80-20, the 80-20.5, if they came out, I think there was supposed to be an 18, or I don't know, there's a different version he's supposed to be coming out. It's a different variant of this. If that one comes out and I love it more, I would sell that to get that one, honestly. But this one, I like it a lot. I enjoy it a lot. It's a lot of fun. I like having it in my collection, but it's not one of those knives that, you know, as it stands right now, if there was a different version that had better thumb studs, a little more jimping on here, maybe just not as super goofy long, you know, handle because of that lanyard priority for whatever reason, you know, and all that worked together, I think I would definitely replace it. So that's where I stand. I like it. And I do recommend it. If you like the aesthetic, if you like the options you have, if some of those things aren't deal breakers for you with the thumb stud, I think you'll really enjoy it. If you're okay tuning to detent, if you don't like a strong detent, I think you'll really enjoy that. If you like a really strong detent, you know, you might like it as is. And if you don't mind a harder deploying front flipper and thumb studs that'll dig in a little bit more, I think you'll love it. So it's definitely going to be in my recommended knives list for sure. I don't hate this. It's not one of these I'm not going to put on my list for sure. So that's my thoughts on that. So hey, if you found this content interesting, fun, worthwhile, would you please consider hitting the like button down below? And if you've hit the like button, would you consider hitting the subscribe button? Subscribing and liking my videos really helps the channel. It helps me to be able to produce more content. And if you've done all that, maybe consider hitting the notification button so you can be notified of future content when I drop it. And if you've done all that, maybe check me out over on Instagram at robs_nerdy_knives. Again, that's on Instagram at robs_nerdy_knives. Thanks so much for watching today. Have a great day and a great week. Bye.